What is up, everybody? Cody here for the Fantasy Authority, hitting you guys with another 2021 NFL Draft Profile. Today I'm going to be looking at wide receiver out of USC, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's go. So looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown as a high school recruit and as a prospect coming into the 2018 class, to say that he was, highly touted and had a high pedigree as a recruit, we would be putting it lightly. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit for 24/7 Sports and Rivals. He was a top 10 overall prospect in that class. He was a top 2 or 3 wide receiver across every major recruiting platform. And obviously with that comes the ability to go to basically whatever school you want to. He could have picked, wherever he wanted to go. He had offers from all of the powerhouse schools. I think he had like 25 offers. Ultimately, he ended up deciding to stay in-state and landed with the USC Trojans. Now, one of the things you have to like about St. Brown is the fact that he produced from day one, from the time he stepped on the field for USC. If you're into analytics, as a true freshman, he has that 18.9 breakout age, which puts him in the 93rd percentile. Now, his stat line that year isn't all that impressive on the surface if you're just kind of looking at, box score scouting. He did put up 60 catches for 750 yards and 3 touchdowns, which again, like on the surface, doesn't seem like that crazy. But whenever you break it down in terms of what that accounted for USC's total passing production, those catches and yards were both 25% of their total passing production, and those 3 touchdowns were good for nearly 17% of their total passing touchdowns. So overall, a really solid freshman season for St. Brown, and he built upon that his sophomore year in 2019 when he had 77 catches for 1,042 yards, and he doubled his scores and ended up with 6 tutties that year. Now, he did play nearly 89% of his snaps from the slot in 2019, and that accounted for the 15th most catches and the 13th most yards from the slot across the NCAA. And then 2020, was a weird year to say the least, but especially for the Pac-12, they only played 6 games. And then USC, for whatever reason, decided to move him outside after he had, kind of excelled playing in the slot and being that short to intermediate guy. He did end up putting up 41 catches for 478 yards and a career high 7 scores. And again, those catches and yards accounted for around 25% of their passing production, but the 7 touchdowns accounted for over 40% of their scores through the air. Now, other than his consistent production, through his 3 years at USC, there is a lot more that I like to his game. I'm going to jump into that now. So the thing that really stuck out to me was just how well-rounded St. Brown is in his game, as a college player. If we're talking about guys who could get that cliche, pro-ready label slapped on them, I think St. Brown is one of those guys among these 2021 wide receivers. I do think he could step on the field as is right now and be able to produce. He can run a full route tree. He's a smart route runner. He's able to diagnose coverages well in terms of, zone and man, when to sit, when to keep, his route going, when to kind of slip behind defenders. So he's smart in that sense. He's strong at the catch point. USC had him listed at 6'1", 195. I think he's a little bit smaller than that. So even despite that, that slighter frame, he did show the willingness to go over the middle, go up and get the ball. He's not bothered by contact either. There was a bunch of times on his tape where you would see him over the middle and there's already a defender hanging over him, and it didn't really bother him in terms of at the catch point. So he's able to do that, which I really liked. He also shows really nice body control and spatial awareness, especially near the sidelines. You saw him, kind of have the ability whenever he's making those adjustments to go up in the air and also know where he is in terms of the field and where the sideline is, so he can get that foot down to make a catch. And he's also good with the ball in his hands after the catch as well, either with his elusiveness in the open field. And then there were a lot of times where he was used on, screens. He didn't have a bunch of carries and handoffs at USC, but when he did, like there's a particular play against UCLA that sticks out in my head where he was able to kind of navigate his way through, ended up getting a first down, was able to make his way through traffic. So he's not just a shifty juke kind of guy. He can do it with his vision and, his above average athleticism as well. And in 2019, in terms of his yards after the catch ability, he posted over 400 yards after the catch, and that was nearly 40% of his total yards whenever he had that sophomore season where he put up over 1,000 yards. And even though his best fit is going to be in the slot, he does have over 500. It was like 560 snaps on the outside at USC. So he does show some ability to be able to shift outside, but I do think his bread and butter is going to be playing in the slot. His competitive toughness, his willingness definitely shows up all over his tape. And if you look at his 2019 tape against Notre Dame, he has a bunch of reps against projected first-round linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I probably absolutely butchered that. But, I'm not going to sit here and say that St. Brown won all those one-on-one reps, not by any means. But he showed the willingness to go after him, to not back down from him. I mean, you're talking about a dude who has at least 20 pounds on him, and then you're adding in the play strength and physicality that he has as well. So I just like his overall, mentality to go in there, kind of stick his nose in there and not shy away from contact, especially because that's kind of where I'm going to be projecting him to play at the next level, which you're definitely going to need. And even though I do like his all-around game, there are some limitations and weaknesses that I do want to mention. And the biggest weakness for me for St. Brown's game is he doesn't have that calling card. He doesn't have that trump card. There's nothing that he truly excels at, or is that one elite trait, that some other guys have in this class. I do think that he has some ability to improve kind of in his nuance and details as a route runner. He does have a false step at the line of scrimmage, and there are some times where he does show the ability to snap off his route and have that efficient footwork at the top of his routes, on those hard-breaking, comebacks and curls and things like that. But then there are other times where he rounds it off too. So if he can clean up some of that, if he can work on his, to have more consistent play strength, at the line of scrimmage and throughout his routes, I think that's going to help him out a bunch. And he could have some room where he can develop athletically, but I don't think there's a ton that he's going to be able to improve on. So he kind of is what he is at this point. I think what we've seen from him is what we're going to get at the next level, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But whenever we talk about these college players and these prospects, we get infatuated with the what if, and man, if he can just work on this, if he can put all this together. St. Brown doesn't necessarily have that thing where it's just going to be like, man, if he can do this, that's going to take him to the next level, which again, not a bad thing, but he kind of is what he is as far as that goes. All in all, I really do like Brown's game. For fantasy purposes, I don't think he's going to have a massive ceiling and a massive upside unless he gets himself into a situation where an offense is just going to absolutely funnel targets his way, kind of like a Keenan Allen or a Jarvis Landry, someone like that who's playing out of the slot. Like I said, he doesn't have that one elite trait because he's not the route runner that they are yet. Like I said, he could develop into that, but he doesn't have that one thing where I'm just looking at it and saying like, yes, you absolutely have to feed him 140 targets year in and year out. He could if he landed with a team that was going to treat him that way, but as of right now, I don't think that's necessarily what a team is going to be drafting him to do. But there's definitely a place for somebody like St. Brown who's just gonna be able to work in that short to intermediate range of the field. If we look at the NFL last year, just overall, 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets were run on 60% of the offensive plays. And there were also 14 teams, I believe, last year who had a pass rate of 60% or more. So his ultimate upside is going to be determined by how much a team is going to rely on him, to be that chain mover, to be somebody who can go over the middle and be that reliable target for an offense. Whenever we're looking at our 2021 Dynasty rookie drafts, I think if you are looking for someone, like if you want to hit on your second round pick, if you want to take the safe option, I think St. Brown is someone you should absolutely be targeting in like the mid to late second round, depending on whether you're in a 1 QB or a super flex league. He's someone who I feel is very safe. Again, might not have that ceiling, might not be putting up, wide receiver 1 weeks, but I think he's someone who's going to have that, very consistent, very safe floor, particularly in full PPR leagues, where I think you could be looking at someone who's going to give you that, that 10 to 12 week in and week out. That is going to wrap up my 2021 NFL draft profile on Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, I would love to get some feedback from you guys. Let me know what you think of him, how you're valuing him at this point of the offseason. I appreciate all of you guys checking this out, and I will talk to you all very soon.